Hello and welcome to my channel Tea with Nikki, and welcome to Frock Tales. I'm Nikki and you can find me more often on my podcast Tea and Possibilities, where I talk about my love for knitting and crochet every other week or so. But here on Frock Tales we will be talking about my other love, costume drama. Because what is life without a little costume and a little drama? We are kicking off this series with the most recent costume drama that I have seen. The ITV adaptation of Belgravia by Julian Fellowes of Downton Abbey fame. This was adapted by Julian Fellowes from his novel of the same name, and it was aired on ITV in the spring of 2020, and it ran for 6 one-hour episodes. Now I'm going to start by quickly summarising the plot, so if you have not seen Belgravia yet and you want to watch it spoiler-free, please skip this video and come back when you have seen it and let me know if you agree with my thoughts. So our story begins in 1815 and the beautiful Sophia Trenchard has fallen in love with Edmund Belgravia. Now unfortunately, though Sophia has a very rich family, she is not quite in Edmund's league. He is the only son and heir of the Earl and Countess of Brockenhurst. However, they are very much in love and they marry in secret. But on the eve of the Battle of Waterloo at a ball, Sophia spots the man who married them. She makes this discovery too late to talk to Edmund about it because they have to go to the fight. She hopes that she will be able to speak to him after the battle, but of course, in true tragic fashion, Edmund is killed at the Battle of Waterloo. Sophia then discovers that she is pregnant. We're all really shocked by this. Because they believe it to have been a sham marriage, her family whisk her away. They hide it even from her younger brother, Oliver, and she gives birth to their son in secret and later dies. The baby boy is raised by friends of the Trenchards as Charles Pope, and nobody ever knows anything about him. The Earl and Countess of Brockenhurst, having lost their only son and heir, will now see the fortune and the title go to their dastardly nephew, John Belgravia. And then we cut to about 25 years or so later. The secret comes out. Mrs. Anne Trenchard tells the Countess of Brockenhurst upon meeting her at a party and discovering the devastation of having lost her son. She tells her the truth, that she may have lost her son, but she has a grandson. And then the loving grandparents try to bring Charles into his rightful fortune and into the love of Lady Maria Grey. There are various twists and betrayals before we get there, but ultimately the series ends happily with a marriage. Now, what did I think of it? Well, I didn't go into this series with particularly high hopes because I'm not a massive Downton Abbey fan. And that's kind of the only thing I knew of Julian Fellowes before watching this series. I will give it another try and we will talk about it here, but for the time being I was sceptical. And I needn't have been, because I really enjoyed this series. So let's start with the things I liked. The whole thing is incredibly neatly plotted. The characters are on the whole very sharp, very wry. They're just a delight to spend time with. Particular shout out to the female characters. Now, Julian Fellowes writes them as strong women for their time. And I think that's really important because you often see historical or period drama where women are given very 21st century sensibilities as a shorthand for being a strong and progressive woman. What I enjoyed about these characters is that they are strong women. They are much stronger than their male counterparts, but they exist very much within their time period. I mean, with the possible exception of Lady Maria Grey, who slips away from her chaperone so often, it is positively scandalous. I would like to give a particular shout out to Tamsin Greig and Harriet Walter, who play Anne Trenchard and the Countess of Brockenhurst. These two women are among my favourite actresses. They are absolutely lovely. They are a delight to spend time with. They look the part, they sound the part, they just do a beautiful job. I'd also like to give a quick honourable mention to Philip Glenister, who I've always had a bit of a crush on. Adam James as Lord Belgravia as well does need a special mention because he plays him with absolute relish. He clearly absolutely adored being a cad, and it showed, and I loved watching it. Now, when it comes to costumes, I'm no expert. I am very much a lay person. There are a couple of things that always look very jarring to me. For example, this kind of fashion for always having the women have their hair down. That wasn't something that happened in Belgravia. I was very happy to see. I can't remember an instance when a woman inappropriately had her hair down, i.e., you know, if she was in her bedroom getting ready or something. That made sense to me. On the whole, to my layperson eyes, there was nothing in it that I found jarring or really obviously out of touch. However, the major failing of this series, in my opinion, was the central love story. We are expected to root for Charles and Mariah, and just didn't really care, to be perfectly honest. They're both really nice, bit boring. I would go potentially so far as to call Charles a bit of a Mary Sue. I don't know what the male equivalent of that is, a Marty Stew, I think. But he was very much, you know, handsome and charming and a very nice young man and very good at business and was just great at everything, which is kind of annoying. He didn't seem to have any particular flaws. The same goes for Mariah. And I just didn't really believe in their chemistry together, which is a real shame, because, you know, that is what the real main centre of the story is, and unfortunately I just didn't buy it. They were both just completely forgettable, particularly in a cast of such fantastic characters like John Bellisis and the Countess of Brockenhurst and, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Trenchard. They just fade into the background, and it's such a shame. Honestly, for me, the true hero of Belgravia was Oliver Trenchard. Now, he's played by Richard Goulding, and bless him, he exists in a very interesting place because his father worked his way up from nothing, but by the time Oliver was born, the much younger brother of Sophia, his father had enough money to raise Oliver as a gentleman, and therefore Oliver is not cut out for the cut and thrust of the business world, and his father kind of doesn't respect him because of it. And I find that a very interesting pull on this character who just wants his father's respect, who is insanely jealous of Charles Pope for having his father's interest, but he was kind of made that way by his father himself. He's also married to like an 1800s robot, because Susan Trenchard, Oliver's wife, is, I genuinely couldn't tell if Alice Eve was just phoning the entire performance in or had basically interpreted Susan as utterly and completely dead inside. However, having said that, I really liked her. She is not particularly likeable, to be perfectly honest, but I liked how she was subtle and she could turn anything to her advantage. She has an affair with John Bellisis and she falls pregnant, and she hopes that she will be able to leave Oliver and become Lady Bellisis and the future Countess of Brockenhurst. Only John Bellisis is really not having any of it, and in revenge, Susan completely destroys him. She is the one that makes it known who Charles Pope really is. She produces all the documentation to show that he is completely legitimate. And then she goes to Oliver, tells him she's pregnant, and manages somehow to spin it as something she did for him so that they could have a child together. And honestly, the woman should be a politician. So the real question is, would I recommend Belgravia? For me, Belgravia was great fun to watch. It was beautiful to look at and really, really enjoyable. It doesn't have, because of the lack in the central romantic coupling, it doesn't have the big swoon-worthy moment that you kind of want, or at least I want, from a period drama. Charles and Mariah are pretty open very early on about their feelings for one another. There's no great declaration really, and I just didn't care about them anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered if there had been. So if you're looking for a fantastic love story, I would skip Belgravia, but if you're looking just for something to enjoy and to chill out to, I would absolutely 100% recommend it. Well, that's it for the very first Frock Tales. Next up, we will be looking at the controversial Sanditon. See you very soon. Bye!